Hello and welcome back to the Give and Go. I'm your co-host Reynoso here with my boy
Soltero. What's up, guys?
A quick shout out to UmBro for dressing the Give and Go, man, giving us these fire t-shirt and jerseys. I got this beautiful MTV exclusive UmBro sponsored jersey. I have no idea where this came from or what it means, but I love it. I look like a fucking human picnic table, folks. And Soltero over here, what are you repping?
I can't. Just don't even like throw it to me. Just like throw me a visual.
Throw me a
visual, and I'm just not going to describe anything. Yeah.
For those who can't see on the audio platform, Soltero's shirt has a man throwing up the peace sign, and Soltero likewise is throwing up a peace sign. Hold that peace sign for a second. Look right here in this camera. Look right here in the camera.
It's Lil UmBro. He's really happy.
Lil UmBro. That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Thank you, UmBro, for these beautiful t-shirts, folks. Thank you. And hey, before we get into it real quick, make sure to rate us 5 stars on Spotify. The ratings help get us on those sports podcast charts, man. We're an independent podcast out here talking about football. And I'm trying to compete with the big guns like ESPN, Fox, and whoever else. So make sure to rate us 5 stars. And if you're on YouTube, you already know what to do. Like, comment, and subscribe. Participate in our community polls, and let's get to it.
So here at the Give and Go, as you were just so perfectly putting, you know, we talk about big teams, we talk about small teams, we talk about everything in between. And I think that was epitomized by the fact that I wore a second division South African jersey in last episode's podcast, bro.
Yep.
Hungry Lions FC, shout out UmBro. But usually I draw a line. There's always a line that I will not cross. And I'm talking about, like, you know, 4th, 5th, 6th division
is
football.
There, bro?
That's the thing. There is. And that's what's crazy is I'll watch any top flight game, because at the end of the day, within that league, if they're in the first division, then that means there's technically Champions League glory awaiting them, whoever ends up winning that league. So it doesn't matter. Like San Marino, bro, they have a league and their first place team gets a shot at the UEFA Champions League title in a sense. And I've seen like second division U.S. soccer. I've seen second division Mexican soccer. I've seen like third tier Brazilian soccer, third, fourth tier European leagues, especially like maybe Spain, England, Germany, for example. But, bro, the Hollywood story of Wrexham FC in the 5th division, I can't ignore it.
Yeah.
Like, I seriously cannot ignore it. And not only that, I can't stop hearing about it, man. Ever since they beat Notts County, which was like a week and a half ago, a huge title decider, essentially, where both teams have surpassed 100 points in their 5th division league, every single news media outlet has put some sort of article out there talking about Wrexham, man. And it's crazy because when you look at the grand scheme of things, bro, this is a 5th division club. Yeah. Like, this is the lowest of the low. And I do understand that in England, football obviously means a lot more than it does pretty much in any other country. So I know that even 5th division football can be followed very passionately and very closely.
It's probably the best 5th division in the world, if we're being honest.
Absolutely. That's probably like a very accurate statement. But when you look at like the finances, the actual level of play being played out in that division, yeah, there's some good players and there's some good football, of course, but it's still pretty low tier, bro. But I'm hearing it as if it's like a second division title decider and the winner's going to the Premier League. That's how much it's being covered, and that's the weight that I feel when I read every single article or when I hear about it, because, dude, it has been non-stop. Not just with this title decider game against Notts County, but just in general throughout this whole year. There's so many different facets that really kind of bring it up, and I think it starts with their ownership, Ryan fucking Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. Obviously, two really popular guys here in the States, but have shown to be very passionate, but also very likable owners. Apparently, they're always in the dressing room. They're very involved as well, not just with the ownership of a club, but like with the ins and outs, like with the pub that's next to the stadium, or actually talking to the players after every single game and just saying, hey, what's up? How's it going? And I think that really resonates with a lot of English people very specifically because of all of the horrible ownership that is happening in the Premier League. And when the European Super League came about, there was so much backlash towards especially the American ownership of Premier League teams in the Premier League. So I really do think that just Ryan Reynolds, Rob McElhenney have kind of gone against that. They've just said, look, we can be good owners. We can care about the people, the fans, as well as the players and the club itself. But it's so interesting because, dude, they're 5 divisions off. Like, I know, and I understand, and first off, this is not a criticism. I'm just saying in the grand scheme of things, it's going to take a lot for Wrexham to actually get, in a footballing perspective, relevant.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I brought this up in the first place, because the story is incredible, bro. I mean, the way they won that game, Ben fucking Foster, by the way, I did not know he was there.
Yeah.
Getting a 96-minute penalty save in dramatic fashion. It was amazing to watch. And just the whole highlight reel in general, bro, the energy was amazing. It was raucous. And you could tell the players out there, Notts County, Wrexham, actually cared.
Yes.
And they were going at it. You know, there was some, 5th division defending
Absolutely.
for sure. But it was still a really well-contested game. But it's 5th division. It's crazy because they have so much work to do, even just to get to the 2nd division, the championship.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just fun to play with, like, how fast can Wrexham climb up the Premier League ladder, bro? Realistically, like, is it going to be possible? Because the whole story itself is just incredible. They almost got promoted to the 4th division last year, and then this year they're pretty much secured it. They just need one more win, and they will get automatic promotion to League 2. But my God, bro, that's just the beginning. Because just from there, it's just going to get exponentially more difficult. And at that point, like, the team that even gets to the 3rd division will probably be completely different than the team that played in the 5th division.
Yeah.
So it really is like you plant your seeds now and just see if the fruits of your labor end up leading to anything remotely successful. It is crazy because right now it is a success story. Like right now in this moment, it is a beautiful story. But 2-3 years down the line, they could be just back in the 5th division, and it's just like shit. It'd be a real reality hitter if that ends up happening. But even if they get close to the 2nd division, man, like within the next 5 years, that would actually be incredible.
Yeah.
And it'd be so impressive. And low key, just because there's so much media on them, I'm going to be watching them. At least keeping an eye on Wrexham very specifically because they have advertised their club so well, bro. And again, I think it does help that the ownership are just really likable American actors because, they can go on Jimmy Kimmel. They can go to CBS Sports Golazo show and they can just talk about Wrexham. And then they can do the same thing in the actual league that they play in and cater to the fans who actually care. Absolutely. So they get, a twofold. They're on FIFA, bro. They got on FIFA. So their outreach and their advertisement has been so good. I just hope that it actually leads to true success on the football pitch. Because my God, man, it'd be a crazy story, and it's very similar to Red Bull Leipzig, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, RB Leipzig. To be very legal here, because they started out in I think the German 4th, or actually maybe the German 5th division, and within 8-7 years they got all the way to the Bundesliga. So a crazy 10-year plan that actually ended up working. The difference was for RB Leipzig is they had an entire entity, a corporation behind them, whereas Wrexham just have 2 very passionate owners behind them. And I wonder if that difference is going to make itself very apparent or not, or is it going to matter? Dude, there's just so many storylines that you could take that are all non-football related, honestly. It's all psychological, financial, and I do think that's why it makes this Wrexham story that much more interesting because there's so many different non-footballing factors just to look at, bro.
I find it so interesting that, you got LeBron owning a stake in Liverpool. You got all these Americans involved in the Premier League now. Todd Bowley, one famous one with Chelsea right now. But Ryan Reynolds and his co-owner essentially decide to invest in a 5th division club. I found that very interesting and fascinating. But also they did it with knowing that there'd be so much potential. There's almost like a Cinderella story in the making. And I don't know if you noticed it, but when I was watching the highlights of the game, I saw that there was HBO level cameras filming Ryan Reynolds himself in the stands. It's like they're doing some sort of documentary over the whole process, and they have like an active, I think it's YouTube channel or like a show or a series that they make as well alongside just the regular team, which is just fascinating in of itself. So they have all of this like incredible promotion, marketing, like this fantasy story, this Cinderella story in the making. But I definitely see your point of the opposite side of, do people know that this is actually going to be really fucking hard to pull off, bro? Do people realize that this is 5th division football in England and not 2nd or 3rd? This is going to take a while, and there's a real opportunity or a real chance that they might get stuck in purgatory. They might get stuck being just a 3rd or 4th division team for decades, bro, perhaps.
No, honestly. I looked up Notts County, Wrexham's rival in the 5th division right now. I looked up their history. Apparently, they claim themselves to be the oldest football club in the world, being founded back in like 1863.
Whoa.
Back when like Abe Lincoln was alive, bro. Pretty crazy. But beyond that, they had only played in the 1st division, like obviously like in the 1910s or something like that. Okay. Again, don't quote me on this, but this was just from what I'm remembering. And the last time they were in the 1st division was like, I think in the late 80s for like 1 year, maybe early 90s for 1 year. And then they got relegated. And then they got relegated again, and then again, and again, and again. And then they got like promoted back to like, I think the 2nd division, but now, right now, they're back in the 5th division, bro. And that's exactly it. Even a club as storied as Notts County, who are going to be 200 years old in like the next 30 years, even they have barely played in the 1st division, and they try. They genuinely try. So it's just not guaranteed, I think, especially in England.
Yeah, dude, I hope people can remain invested in this story, and with them going into League 2 next season, if they manage to fulfill promotion, I hope they can continue that marketing and that interest, because at the end of the day, I think it's good for the sport, for people to be checking out, the lower leagues of England or just lower leagues of football in general, and having Ryan Reynolds kind of be the poster boy for that. Yeah. I'm down for, man. And likewise, I mean, it's the best story, man. It's the best story. These type of stories when the smaller, lesser-known teams make incredible runs, go on title-winning runs. I mean, you know who I checked back in the other day on, bro? I look back on Atletico Tucumán, man.
Oh, yeah.
Who got so close.
Yeah.
So close to winning the Argentine 1st division last season. Fell short at the very end, completely fizzled out. But I checked on them literally last night to see how they're doing this season. Bottom 3 team, bro. Yeah. Bottom 3 team in Argentina right now. Yeah. Fucking abysmal, bro. Terrible fucking season. But hey, I'm glad we gave them the credit when they were doing really fucking well.
Yeah.
But goddamn, this game is harsh, bro. It's unforgiving, dude.
Yeah.
Also, did you know Boca's like bottom 15, bro? They're like in 15th place right now, dude.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I did see it. But River's, I think, doing okay. Like, they're actually pretty good. But Boca's down there. Yeah. Oddly enough, I looked at the table like last week, too, just because I was like, I wonder how they're doing over there.
Producer, can you browser cam this? Can you pull up the Argentine 1st division table real quickly? 2 minutes. Let's start from the bottom. Unión and Atletico Tucumán.
Pokemon. But Boca Juniors are 19th, bro.
19th place, dude. Shit. That is really... Because I saw that they lost to Independiente at home, and I was like, this must have been like a really important title clash. Yeah. I check. Boca's in 19th. Vélez was a Copa Libertadores like quarterfinalist last year.
Yeah, bro. Thing is, just like Liga MX, the table is always so tight in Argentina, bro, that like if you just go on even like a 4-game winning streak, you go right to the top, bro. You go right to the top. So we check back in like in a month and a half, Boca might be like top 7.
Yeah, I can see that.
Maybe even top 5, bro.
I don't know, but they're 14 points after 12 games. That's so unlike Boca. Yeah. Newell's Old Boys in 11th, Racing Club in 9th. Belgrano in 6th, Defensa y Justicia in 5th, Talleres in 4th. That one kind of makes sense. They went on a deep run in the Copa Libertadores last year too. But then, bro, look at River Plate right now. They are leading this table. 30 points. Next closest is 24 points after 12 games. And they are on a winning streak right now. And they're looking good. I looked at their squad. I don't really see any like amazing prospects when you think about like potentially going over to Europe. Yeah. They seem like just a really sound Argentina-based team. And like I said, any Argentine right now that has won the World Cup, that DNA, that championship DNA is just going through these players. And so River Plate's playing like a championship team right now. So Barcelona's been a hot topic for the give and go.
Yeah.
Right? Because you had a little bit of a spiel. You had a whole rant that you made last time. Really short, but passionate, impactful.
Yeah.
Where you sum up that rant for the people who might have not caught it.
Yeah. So very passionately and with a little bit of vocal flair. I basically bashed the way they handled Frankie de Jong last summer, even though he ended up staying at the club. I've criticized the way they handled Gavi this year, trying to give him a contract extension, then having to take it back due to financial reasons. And now he's still just a youth player currently. And then overall, I was just generally outspoken with the way that they've handled their finances altogether, man. The fact that they had to let Messi go specifically, and that they've been trying to get him back since, but the fact that they had to let him go in the first place, I just was very critical of that, because that's Messi's home and they just had to literally push him out the door. The world's best ever player. That's, for me, in my eyes, is very pathetic. Now, here's what's crazy. All three of those things are true. They're factual. When Frankie de Jong was going through the debacle with Barcelona, he was very vocal. He spoke to news media outlets. He was like, I just bought a home here in Barcelona. I don't want to leave. They bought me for a lot of money, so I thought I was going to be here for the long run. So what's going on? That's stupid, man. Like, come on. If you're going to be a big club, act like it. Treat your big players right. And if they're not going to be a big player, don't make it seem like they are. Going back to the Gavi situation, that just, for me, epitomizes how poor they've been with their finances. I know that there are a lot of rules set in place, and I know it's very strict in Spain, but Barcelona have been within the Spanish system for their entire inception. Barcelona's in Spain. They're in La Liga. They know the rules. Obviously, not just Barcelona, but clubs abroad will always try to bend the rules in their favor. Barcelona, I think, have tried to bend them a little bit too much, bro. And it's biting them in the back right now, and they're having to deal with those repercussions. None of what I'm saying is in any way like slander.
Right, like an attack.
It's not an attack. I'm just very critical of it because, like, get your shit together. You are arguably one of the world's biggest clubs, and yet the club itself is acting like a petty teenager, trying to just bend the rules, and then when they get caught, they're just trying to like blame it on somebody else. If you know the rules, then you're going to have to abide by them. I just think overall, Barcelona are struggling with a little bit of sense of irrelevancy. And I do call it basically the Messi hangover. I mean, what do you do when you're the club who had the best team between like 2009 and 2014, when you had the best player on the planet? What do you do when all of that's gone? Well, you try to make it back up very quickly, and that's exactly what they tried to do. They bought players like Antoine Griezmann for like $200 million fucking dollars,
Coutinho.
Coutinho. Oh my God. Yeah, exactly. Signings like that immediately off the bat when maybe you weren't in the financial situation to do so, but you were doing it to try to maintain yourself as a big club. And I understand that. It's actually a great signings at the time. Getting players like Coutinho and Griezmann, great idea. Here's the thing though, if it doesn't work, you have to deal with that mistake. And instead of dealing with that mistake, they tried to cover it up by signing 10 other fucking players for $50 million minimum. You can't do that over and over again and expect to either just be okay with your finances or for it to somehow become successful. Again, I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to maintain themselves as a really competitive big club. But at a certain point, after mistake, you got to just reset and try to fix it from a different vantage point. Find different solutions rather than just trying to buy your way out of it. Getting players like Rafinha, Lewandowski, those players aren't going to be cheap for you. Even if they're on a free, a player like Lewandowski is going to demand huge wages, bro. So you got to think about it. Can we afford players like that? So I'm just saying, overall, I'm not attacking Barcelona, but I am criticizing them.
Right. Yeah, I completely that point, man. And just because you're a big club doesn't mean you can't be criticized, because you can either be the situation or the regulations in place by the league. It can be either the situation that the club is in itself. But at the end of the day, you gotta figure it out, man. Mm-hmm. And this kind of helps me transition over to my next point, because in the media, we saw a massive, damn near declaration of war between Barcelona and Real Madrid. Did you see the full video that Real Madrid posted on their Twitter yesterday?
I did not.
Okay.
I would love to see
Let
it,
me
though.
sum it up for the folks.
Yeah.
Let me sum it up for the listeners, even for producer Rudd, who might be a little confused. Let me sum it up for Lil UmBro.
Yeah,
right?
please.
He just wants peace.
He just wants peace, bro.
Now, this gets very political. It gets very historical here because Barca and Real Madrid are two historical clubs. They've been around for damn near a century at this point, man. When Spain was under the rule of their dictator, Franco, I had to look this up to see what happened in Spain's history. They were under his regime for, I think it was like almost 30 years.
Yeah, it was a while.
Between like, I want to say the 30s, 40s to like the 70s. But he ruled Spain for a long, long time and a number of decades. And during that time, obviously, Real Madrid and Barcelona were vying for titles. They were looking for glory. They're looking to become the teams that they are today in world football. And a shot was thrown at Real Madrid from Barcelona's president Laporta during a press conference just recently where he stated that Real Madrid was the team of the regime, more specifically Franco's regime, and thus they were, you could say in a way that he was trying to imply that they were, spoiled, that they were given success, they were given titles, they didn't really earn what they had, that they, during that period, were favored by Franco and his coalition.
Yeah, like they were backed by not just one person, but by like almost an entire government.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's an aggressive sentiment. It's also kind of confusing that they would be beefing over this in the first place.
Kind of weird, yeah.
Right? But Real Madrid decided to clap back.
Oh, really?
They decided to clap back, and Florentino Perez, I assume, approved a video to be posted by Real Madrid's Twitter, by their actual account, the official account, a full-length video where they show, in their eyes, video evidence, sound bites, interviews, historical facts that claim that what Laporta said was actually just straight up lies, and that the truth was the complete opposite. That in their eyes, Barcelona was a team of the regime.
Oh my
Franco's
God.
regime. So these are heavy claims to throw at each other, man, because they're talking about who was favored by a dictator during one of Spain's worst political times.
Right.
And both sides are just fired the fuck up from what I've seen in terms of Reddit forums, Twitter, and just all these different fan bases. Yeah. What I've seen right now is that this is stirring up the pot ridiculously between these two, which already hate each other already. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing them just go back and forth now. But it's incredible to me that Florentino Perez would approve a message that bashful, like approve a message that aggressive, and to just run with it, just made for incredible outsider entertainment. But from the inside, I mean, I think it's going to fire up the El Clasico rivalry even more, something that's been needed these past few years. And there's a couple people who got conspiracy theories saying that La Liga asked them to do this so that it could help bring more eyes towards the league and more eyes towards the rivalry. But that's just a fucking conspiracy, bro.
Conspiracy. Well, no, I don't want to entertain any conspiracy. But thing is, that sounds like a good conspiracy because, I mean, yeah, more money in both of the clubs' pockets if there's just more eyes on the game itself. Yeah. But let's just pretend there's no conspiracy and let's just look at what actually happened, which is already insane, bro.
Yeah.
That's insane. But it's kind of what I'm talking about, man. Like, why would Barcelona start something like this? Why would they?
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it, man. I don't understand the type of energy or personality that they run themselves as. And is it a good or bad thing? Honestly, I don't know, because I don't know enough about Spanish politics to know how big of a deal this is. This sounds like a crazy big deal, but maybe it's just talk more outspokenly in Spain.
Okay.
Like, maybe they just talk about the regime.
It's definitely one of those tougher things to understand as an outsider.
Yeah, I don't know if I fully understand it.
I do feel like if I was in Spain and I was Spanish, this would have much more weight to it for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to know your opinion, but also I would love to know what Atletico Madrid fans think of this.
Dude, I have
just seeing Barca and Real Madrid just throw these fucking bazooka cannons at each other. And you're just watching from afar, like, what the fuck? And the last point that needs to be acknowledged is that they ended the video by showing a Santiago Bernabeu soundbite. But he says in the soundbite that every time he hears that Real Madrid is the team of the regime, he gets pissed off. He gets mad. He gets he wants to shit on the family of the person that says that, essentially. Right. That's crazy, man. That's crazy that they were debating this even back then, and it's come back around now.
Right. That actually is insane. I feel like this is bad. I feel like this can't have been sanctioned by La Liga, man.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way that conspiracy is dead, in my opinion.
Yeah.
All I see here is ego. I see Barcelona and their head fighting against Real Madrid's head, and they're just going at each other. And it's not pretty. I don't like it, bro. I don't like it at all. This has no place in football, in my opinion. Now, I understand it's history, right? Maybe some of this is true. Maybe some of this is false. I understand that this did happen, but it's 2023 right now, brother. The time is gone. The past is in the past. Madrid who they are right now, and Barcelona are one of the best clubs right alongside them right now. So forget the past. Let's play fucking football.
Yeah.
I don't like any of this.
Yeah, man. Really aggressive approach here from both sides. I wonder who started. I wonder if it is Barcelona's doing. I wonder if that's who started this whole thing with Laporta coming out with that attack first. But the fact that Real Madrid entertained the attack, and the fact that Real Madrid was willing to go this far to make this video, which, by the way, looks like it was already prepared in advance, like they had it in the vault and were ready for a moment to release this. To me, it's just fascinating that this is even a thing to be argued right now.
Yeah.
And low-key, it's very separate from football itself. It's history, but all it's going to do, in my opinion, is reignite that flame between both sides if it wasn't already lit enough. And we're going to see some really interesting matchups in the future with this undertone now of what went down during Franco's regime and the history of both these sides.
Jesus, man. I would go ahead and guess that Laporta probably said all of this stuff because weren't Barcelona being accused of paying referees for like a while?
That's where that started.
So I think he was just like, no, we're not paying referees. You want to know who paid referees? Madrid under Franco's regime.
Yeah.
So he just took it like 10 steps too far, I think. And so Madrid obviously aren't going to take lightly to those type of accusations. So then they post this crazy diss track of a video. The fact that we just had a soundbite of Santiago Bernabeu talking about what club was on Franco's side, that means this has been talked about for decades. So maybe like the documentary is just, it's already there. They're like, oh, we know what to pull up, stuff like that. But again, we would need a Spaniard on this podcast to actually know how big this is, what's actually going on, how often is this talked about? Because again, what if it's talked about like incredibly often that like it's always amongst the people, but it's just rarely in the media like this? Or maybe it's rarely talked about and this is actually a really big fucking deal. I have no idea. Either way though, it looks insane from an outside perspective.
Insane, dude. Insane. I can't believe it happened.
Yeah.
And all I want is peace for Lil UmBro, man.
Yeah, man. He doesn't deserve that. He deserves peace. Look at him.
Man. I was dying to talk to you about this. If we going, dying to talk to you about this, bro. Arsenal tied again. Arsenal tied again. And wait, bro, I gotta ask you a really honest question, bro. A really honest question, because we were asked on our pod Q&A yesterday on Instagram. We were asked, who's y'all's second team this season? And I think for me, it's very obviously and very clear that I love Bayer Leverkusen this season. Yeah. They're my second team. They're my adopted son this season. But, bro, I want to ask in all seriousness right now, and I want you to be honest with me. Are you a Man City fan?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely a Man City fan. As soon as you said who is your second team, Man City immediately came up in my head, which tells me that is the truth.
Can't stop thinking about it.
I can't stop thinking about it, man. Damn. I really can't. Man City is my second team. I actually cheer for them now when they play.
Wow.
Even if it's against, lowly Leicester. Seeing them score 3 fucking goals and just thrashing them brings me true joy. And then every time they set foot out in the Champions League this season, I've noticed myself actually going for them, man. There's something about this Manchester City that I've talked about in every single podcast episode since the turn of the new year that just gets me really giddy about this side, bro.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm very, very pro Manchester City this year.
Right. And so then I ask you this. Does the, you could say, beautiful story or inspiring story of this young and youthful Arsenal side overtake your attraction towards Manchester City? And when it comes to these two teams pursuing a Premier League title, are you rooting for Man City to win it?
First off, I want to start off with this. Thank God I'm not an Arsenal fan.
Oh, my God.
Thank God. I cannot imagine what they must be going through. If
I can. Liverpool been in this situation for years, bro. Tight as a fucking needle, man.
I know, but like I feel like at that point Liverpool, you know, had gotten silverware.
I was gonna say there's a little bit more assurance because we knew that we were really fucking good. Whereas with Arsenal, this almost feels like this could go to shit.
Yeah.
Like within a few games.
To double down on that idea, I think this is the breaking point for Arsenal. I think that's why it's very different. And that's why it gets so scary if you're an Arsenal fan, because if Arsenal don't win the Premier League this year, this might be the closest they get for another 20 years. It could be something like that. Or
you don't think being a little extra with it, bro?
Okay, maybe like 5-10 years, which is still a long time.
I was gonna say 20.
20's a long time, yeah, sorry. But the other side of the coin is they go on to vie for the title for the next 5. Yeah. That's a big difference, man. Vying for the title every year, kind of like Liverpool did for 4 straight seasons.
Right. Or
just constantly being between 4th and 10th place as they have been doing since their last title win. So this, for me, this is the breaking point for Arsenal and why I am so thankful that I have no stake in them whatsoever, and I can only look at them just from an unbiased point of view because, bro, seeing Bukayo Saka miss that penalty actually hurt me.
Oh, man.
I put my hands in my face and I was like, no. I was like, no, not like this. Not like this. Not when you're given the opportunity to get a third fucking goal and just get the 3 points. And instead, he fluffs it. He fluffed it bad, bro. And that hurt me. Truly. And so, yeah, I'm very scared for Arsenal. But am I going for Manchester City? The answer is yes.
You're going to root for them to win the title.
I'm rooting for them to win the title because Arsenal had it. It was theirs. And now, if Manchester City go on to win every single one of their games remaining, they will become Premier League champions. So it'll be a comeback win for Manchester City. And then, to top off what could arguably be one of the best seasons of a Premier League team ever, they'll lift the Champions League trophy as well. And so that's why I want it to happen, because if they just win the Champions League, then people will be like, a Pep, or a Haaland, the team's oil money, blah, 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 blah. But to have a come from behind Premier League title win in the same year, I think that'll just be a little bit better.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's why I'm going for City to take it from Arsenal. But the thing is, it's still in Arsenal's hands if they can beat Manchester City in a week's time, I believe, when they face, I think it's at the Etihad? Fuck, I don't know. Yeah,
wait,
I'm pretty sure.
Screen share. Let's look this up. This is big right now. This is big. I don't know for sure.
If they play at the Etihad,
Arsenal, Manchester City. It's all you gotta look up. Producer Red. Arsenal, Manchester City. You got this. I believe in you. Manchester City, Wednesday, April 26th.
It's at the Etihad.
Click on it, please.
It's at the Etihad.
Let me get that confirmation.
Scroll down,
Rudd.
Etihad.
We are at the Etihad. Holy shit. Fuck. Arsenal's season comes down to this one singular game. An incredible stage that the Premier League is setting up and that you just set up for the listeners, because I completely agree, bro. If you're an Arsenal fan, the tension has never been higher. The stress has never been higher. The anxiety has never been higher. I cannot imagine how stressed you are during these matches, and especially these past 2 games, going up 2-0 against West Ham within 10 minutes, bro. 10 minutes, and knowing how well they've been playing the whole season, being able to sit back and be like, okay, we're on course here. We're fine. West Ham has been ass this season. We're going to take care of business now. Might even get 2 more goals in this match. And then slowly West Ham crawls back into the game with Jared Bowen getting involved and scoring some bangers. Bukayo Saka misses that penalty. Turmoil. This is a perfect setup for stage 4 depression, bro. You're set up for a life of misery if you're an Arsenal fan and you lose this season, given how magical this run has been, how well all of these players have been playing. Odegaard playing like a player I've never seen before. Even when Gabriel Jesus got injured, he was playing great up to that point. You still had a backup step up, and Nketiah, which to me just signified how magical this team would be this season. If you got your backups playing like that, fucking Reece Nelson scoring an insane game winner at home that just gave me goosebumps, bro. This is the season for Arsenal. But what's incredible, dude, is that Manchester City, like you said, if they essentially win out, they'll end up being Premier League champions. The thing is, they've already won 10 games in a row. If they win out, bro, they'll end the season on a 20-game winning streak to lift the fucking title.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
20-game winning streak, bro.
Yeah, they required perfection, and if they pull it off, they would have achieved it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
That's history, bro.
Yes.
That's the pep regime.
And my God, what an army he's built.
I can't believe it, man.
Yeah, and so that's why I want it to happen, because I think it'd be just the greatest Premier League team of all time. Sorry, people will get triggered by that. How do I put it?
You got to hold yourself back a little bit there.
Yeah, I don't know how else to put it, but honestly, I do think of this team as one of the greatest 11s just ever assembled in the Prem, bro. I really do think so. Like, there's just no other way to describe how good Manchester City is. Now, it took them a while to get going, just a little bit. I think more so defensively. But once he put Stones in that midfield, once he figured out how to get the most out of Akanji and Nathan Ake, it's been easy for City. Easy. And then obviously Erling Haaland, the revelation he's had this season. Jack Grealish is finally coming to his own. Kevin De Bruyne is still the best attacking midfielder of his generation. Well, you have an incredible team after all of those descriptions. But just for Arsenal, man, just to end on it, it's just so dramatic. You know, I said that this really is a breaking point, and you just got me thinking, even with Arsenal firing on all cylinders for the majority of the season, with players stepping up to the plate and overachieving, if they still can't pull it off, then I do think it's going to be detrimental to not just the fans' health, but to the players themselves, bro. Because they'll look around at the end of the season and be like, if we played our best football, and we still can't win it, we ain't winning it anytime soon, boys. We need help, or we need to leave. That's going to be the solution, bro. It's going to be so hard to gather yourselves in the off season and look at each other and be like, all right, let's give it another go. Damn. That's tough,
That's
bro.
really tough. It's really
that's
they're young,
really
dude.
tough.
They're young, and they overachieved this season, though. You don't think there's a perspective they can have where last season they were fighting for fourth place and they failed? This season, if they were fighting for the Premier League title and they failed, that's still an improvement. That's still a really good thing.
My only problem is
and you lost it to what we're calling one of the greatest Premier League sides of all time.
Right.
There's a side of this where you're just like, all right, we got bested, but we're still gonna have our core here for the next 5 to 10 years, and we can just bounce back, man. Like, there's got to be some sort of optimism.
My only problem with that is that I truly do think Erling Haaland's going to get better next season. Jack Grealish is going to get better next season. De Bruyne is going to be the same exact stud that he is next season.
Me, bro. You're
so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm like a prophet right now. Prophesizing the end of the world, bro. Yeah, because it doesn't matter how much you improve as a team. If Manchester City's getting better, you're not going to win the Premier League. So in this transitionary period for Manchester City, if you can't beat them then, I don't think you're ever going to beat them unless you make some drastic changes. And so, yeah, that's why I think the situation is very dire for Arsenal. And here's the thing, though. They can still do it. They can still win this league. It's not over. It is not over. And even if it ends up being their only title for the next 10 years, it'll be such an important one, bro. And it'll mean so much, not just to Arsenal fans, but to people like us who just love the game, because seeing Arsenal week in, week out and see what they've been able to achieve, and to also see the lows that they've hit, for example, these 2-2 draws in a row, for them to pull it off at the end of the season would be incredible. So I'll still be rooting for them in that sense, because it's not over, bro. It's not over.
Not at all.
But my God, is it going to get really fucking dramatic.
This is going to be a midweek game. It's going to be incredible. You going to take off work, bro?
I might, honestly. I'd like just
take
for
a
those
long lunch
2
break?
hours, take a long lunch break, just for those 2 hours, catch what is essentially like a Premier League final.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I wanted to cover the Champions League matches that happened today. I saw both of them. We had Real Madrid face off against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and then Napoli face off against AC Milan in Naples. This is one of those experiences where I went back and forth between games, like, maybe 15 minutes watching the Napoli game, 15 minutes watching the Real Madrid game. And it was because when both games started, Chelsea actually started the game with their foot on the fucking gas, dude. Yeah. N'Golo Kante has been injured for a number of months now, almost half a year, I think, at this point.
Longer.
Comes back into the squad, and in certain aspects, he's looked as good as ever. Same old N'Golo Kante. But in other aspects, such as finishing or such as scoring a really meaningful goal, he ain't there, bro.
Yeah.
And he had multiple chances in the box where he could have scored the first initial goal for Chelsea that could completely flip the game, completely ignite this Chelsea squad, rile up the fans, and just do that classic Champions League comeback approach. He had multiple chances at being that guy, dude. And he missed. He missed. Likewise, Conor Gallagher also had a few chances as well. Kai Havertz trying to make something happen in the box. Chelsea was active. They were good. Cucurella was, man, he was on that sideline sending him some balls. And Reece James was sending him some good crosses. But at the end of the day, bro, they just couldn't finish, which has been their story the whole season, bro. Yeah. They cannot finish to save the... What's a pun I can... Like how they say, like, if a keeper had a bad game, they're like, damn, he couldn't even save a Word document right now. Like, they couldn't even finish Oh, like, if Chelsea was from Finland, they wouldn't even be able to be Finnish.
No, I'm not going to give you that one. No.
They couldn't finish even if they were Finnish. Yeah? Yeah. That works.
I guess. Yeah, it works.
Real Madrid had 2 mesmerizing goals with Rodrigo stepping up today. I want to highlight the goal score because that's going to come back into play in my little analysis. Rodrigo scoring a brace in this game. And the build-up play for Real Madrid is just so smart, man. It's so intelligent. The way that they're willing to make the extra pass. Shout out Valverde, who was willing to do that on that second goal. And we saw Rodrigo literally walk the ball into the back of the net in a Champions League quarterfinal. Yeah. Isn't that crazy, bro? That's Real Madrid. That's what they're able to do. That's what they're capable of doing to a team that's very confused like Chelsea. And I was slipping back and forth, man, because like I said, Chelsea started off hot, but then they eventually fizzled out. Real Madrid took over, and so I went back to Napoli. And in the Napoli game, we saw something very interesting. Napoli was only down 1-0, bro. 1-0. Only needed to score 1 goal at home. But keep in mind that they lost to AC Milan 4-0 a few weeks back in the Serie A. Right. Weren't able to score a goal. Then they lost to AC Milan 1-0 at the San Siro. Once again, unable to get on the score sheet. And now they're here back at home with Victor Osimhen in the lineup, but no Zambo Anguissa, no Kim Min-jae. And after the first half, no Mario Rui and no Politano, who got injured as well. 4 key players for Napoli absent from the second half of this crucial game. Rafael Leao, the second man I wanted to highlight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Remember when we had that debate?
I thought the same exact debate topic when I saw these 2 games, bro. I was like, wow, Leon Rodrigo, huh?
On the same trajectory, bro.
Yeah.
It's so even between them.
Yeah.
Leao had a fucking beautiful assist, an insane run where he got past 3 Napoli defenders.
Dude, he
just couldn't keep up.
Glided past them, bro. As if they weren't there. Yeah. It was that easy for Leao, but he made it look that easy.
Yeah, and then the keenness, the awareness to be able to just lay the ball off to Olivier Giroud, scoring the goal, making it 1-0. And it was so contrasting how defeated Napoli looked after being down 2-0 at home and conceding that goal versus Chelsea, who at the time of watching was so fired up despite being down by the same amount.
Yeah.
They were at home as well. So I was looking at it, I was like, both of these teams for a minute were in the same situation, but Chelsea just looked more energetic and more willing to try to go for it. Yeah. Napoli, on the other hand, man, out of ideas, throwing it over to Kvaratskhelia, hoping that he can do some sort of magic. And he tried, brother. He tried. Yeah. But he just couldn't find the net at the end of the day. Irving Lozano, my patriot, my savior, if you will, having himself a woeful game, man. Came in for Politano at one point, and I thought maybe he'd be able to find that success on the wing. Unable to do anything really, dude, that was truly impactful for the team. AC Milan. I'm done talking about Napoli. AC Milan, bro, their stoutness, their ability to defend, Theo Hernandez, I'm convinced, is one of the best fullbacks in the game right now. If you try to go past him, bro, he swallows you up. No homo. The shit he does is incredible, bro. His ability to just nab that ball away from you and to stress you out is really good. I'm actually truly impressed by how AC Milan, over 3 games against a high-scoring, high-flying Napoli side, was able to keep a clean sheet. Granted, they conceded in the last minute of the fucking game.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to count that, bro, because it was meaningless.
It was.
Meaningless. When the game mattered the most, AC Milan was so concrete in their back line. They get the result, and they see themselves go to the semifinals of the Champions League alongside Real Madrid, who, by the way, has made 11 Champions League semifinals in the past 13 years.
Wow. Oh, my God.
Yeah, bro.
I mean, obviously, it makes sense, but just numbers-wise, that sounds insane.
Yeah.
Because that's like half of my lifetime, bro. Oh, my God. That's incredibly impressive.
Insane.
But to go back to Napoli, I was left incredibly frustrated and very disappointed because, I mean, you said it perfectly. They were down 2-0, and they looked like they were out of ideas.
Yes.
But even before that, I thought that they started the game wrong, and I know that they were missing big players. I think Zambo Anguissa, more specifically as far as facilitation is concerned for this Napoli midfield, and at least somebody who could provide a good driving force once the ball is retained and gotten back.
Well, that's the thing, and Ndombele was at fault for that first goal.
It was a bad giveaway. It was really, really bad. But beyond that defensive mistake, though, I thought that Napoli would play their classic triangular, geometric type of attacking football where they just find the passes around you. And then from there, they utilize their width, whether it's through Politano or Kvaratskhelia, then go one-on-one and then find good service, whether it's from them or Mario Rui to Victor Osimhen. But there was none of that, man. And if there was, it was all just a little bit too slow, a little bit too labored, and not dynamic enough to beat a team like AC Milan in the quarterfinal of a Champions League. And that's what makes me really disappointed because I thought they would have just gone gung-ho. It's 1-0. You're at home. Just go for it. Even if you don't have your best players, I thought that they were just going to, kind of like Chelsea did when they started, just really put your foot on the pedal and see if you can get an early goal. Because if you do that, literally anything can happen. And even if you risk 1 goal early, you still have, 70 minutes to try and just get 2 back to equalize the game. But overall, Milan just didn't let that happen. And for me, Napoli, I just didn't look up for it.
I'm frustrated too, bro.
They didn't look up for it.
They were in my finals, bro. Yeah. Like, this is this magical Napoli side we've been watching the whole season.
This is so
how is it that this is how you end the season in the Champions League, bro? But likewise, I think AC Milan's game plan was good enough to defeat this Napoli side. Yeah. They exposed them, bro. They exposed them. I definitely underestimated AC Milan's approach to the game and how willing they would be to, let Napoli come at them.
Yes.
But force them to do something that wasn't predictable. Force them into situations where they would have to show that level of genius that we knew that they had, and ultimately they just weren't able to show. To me, Tonali had no idea he was this good, bro. This guy is a workhorse in that defensive midfield position. He makes every interaction, every battle, every loose ball so hard to win, and he played his heart out this series, man. Yeah. Likewise, Kier, the center back, crucial as well, and then Fikayo Tomori. Yeah. I can see why people were mad that Southgate didn't call him up to the World Cup because when he's on it like this, bro, I do think he might be willing of a call-up over a guy like Harry Maguire, for example, bro. Yeah. He's so wildly consistent, and he's a force back there. He bullied Victor Osimhen this whole game, dude, and made it tough for him in every single possession. That's fucking admirable, bro. That really is. And then offensively, Rafael Leao, you just throw it up to him, and if he likes where he's at, if he likes the position he's in, he can just go at it, and then he can look over to Oliver Giroud. They're like a bootleg Vinny and Benzema, bro.
Yeah.
Bootleg might be a little too insulting. They're like they're close to it, man. Yeah. They're like a lighter version of that. And overall, I'm very impressed with AC Milan and how they were able to do it. And on the other side, Real Madrid, we kind of knew that after they went up 2-0 at the Santiago Bernabeu, that they would end up winning this matchup, and they go through.
At the end of the day, this gets tricky because obviously there's so many people who said Napoli wouldn't even get close to the final, and they're feeling really good right now.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people who said that they would at least go to the semis, if not have a really good shot at going to the final.
Yeah.
And just the way that they lost this tie gets me really thinking in the sense that, like, what did it for Napoli? Like, if you want to dissect this loss, what was it? Was it the fact that they've played league rivals AC Milan? Because I saw a lot of people commenting that, and the idea they're like, Napoli probably wish that they didn't play an Italian team this late into the season, hoping that they could catch, kind of like we said before, maybe like a Premier League team or a La Liga team, someone that you just don't know. Or is it just Napoli kind of are slightly out of form at the worst time?
Yeah, I think it's more that.
In my opinion, I think it's more that. And I don't think people are really saying that. No. When you look at both of these legs and even the game, as you said, going into it, that 4-0 loss, Napoli already were not looking like themselves. They were less dynamic, which I thought was a big problem in this game. And that was their whole shtick. Their whole shtick was, we're going to be more dynamic than you. And it just wasn't looking convincing going into this tie. But the thing is, for some reason, I thought that like Champions League Napoli would somehow kick in, which is why I had them going so far in this tournament. But at the end of the day, they got beaten by the better team, and I think Napoli just lost a little bit of that fire, a little bit of that chemistry that was so strong in the first like 6 to 7 months of the season. So it's just unfortunate, but it just goes to show you though. You either have to have a really good game plan on the day like Milan, or you have to be insanely consistent like Liverpool in their heyday or like Manchester City. To be consistent for 9 to 10 months out of the season, bro, is almost impossible. And I think Napoli kind of showed that it is very, very difficult to do. And so I'm just left really frustrated, really disappointed because if Napoli even played close to the heights that they had achieved, let's say 2-3 months ago, and obviously clearly before that, I think they would have ran this Milan team. But honestly, I think they got a little scared. They got a little bit in their own heads, and they just got timid at the end. Because they had like triple the amount of shots that Milan did, but the same amount as Milan did on goal.
Damn.
That was it. So it's just like, ultimately, they really had no stronghold on this game. And they go out with a whimper, in my opinion, man. Yep. And I'm really, really disappointed here. Truly. But again, congratulations to Milan because, they had a really, really good game plan. And they executed it to perfection. Which is why I actually credit them because if Napoli were real, they would have beat them. They would have found a way to get back into this game and to take it to a, let's just say, defensive-minded team. But they couldn't do it. They just couldn't find a way. Whereas, for example, like a team like Madrid can take pressure, can withstand it, maintain it, and then beat you all at the same time. Napoli are very far from that. And I think that definitely shows you experience can go a long way in a tournament like this.
You don't think there's an aspect of them not truly being at full strength in either leg coming into play here? First leg, They have Kim Min-jae, they have Anguissa, but they're missing their prolific goal scorer and Victor Osimhen. Completely gone from this game, who we know is crucial to this team. A leading scorer in Serie A as well. This is the fucking guy. And what we saw in that first game was Napoli play relatively good defense, only conceding one goal to a Benacer shot that went in. But then after that, they were the better team, and they were on the attack and on the prowl, but they weren't able to finish, which would have been something that Osimhen probably could have been able to do. And in that second leg, you're out with Kim Min-jae, you're out with Politano, you're out with all these guys that I've mentioned already. Yeah. But you do get Osimhen back. But you're not at 100% full strength the way you were when you were at the height of your level this season. Mm-hmm. You don't think there's some level of sympathy that you can give to Napoli because of that? Or is it just bad luck? Is that what it comes down to? Yeah. To why they weren't able to succeed in the Champions League? I do think it's a little bit of that. And I think it's a little bit of them just not truly being informed because I think even then, a lot of these guys didn't seem to be at the peak of their levels like they were just a few months ago, man.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, no, absolutely. They definitely were missing key pieces, 100%. And that is going to hurt you. Even if it's a center back in a defensive-minded game, maybe he won't be there or maybe he won't be as impactful because you might not need him as much. But just to have him in the 11 as a fan, as a player out there, you look back, you see Kim, that definitely does a lot. And the fact that they didn't have that, or to have a guy like Zambo Anguissa just even start the game, it's definitely a hit. And so you're right. I definitely think Napoli got a little unlucky in that sense because no matter what, you always want your best 11. Even if the next guy up is almost as good, you'll still be left with just a little bit more to desire. So you're right. Like, To be less critical, Napoli definitely were missing big pieces, but I just thought as a collective they could have hyped each other up a little bit more. I think that's all I'm a little bit frustrated with. But overall, they definitely were missing quality.
Manchester City faces Bayern Munich tomorrow, and Benfica faces Inter Milan tomorrow, being down 2-0. Manchester City, in my opinion, is set to go to the semifinals, no doubt. Whereas Benfica, maybe. We'll see. We'll see if they can stir up any sort of magic. Regardless, there's a big chance that we see a Inter Milan, AC Milan semifinal this time around. So keep an eye on that, and we'll see what happens, because by the time this episode's out, the game will probably already have happened. So we'll see.
We'll see.
I'm going to be really vague here. Be really vague. Do you know who scored this weekend?
In what context?
Football in context.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't want people to confuse it with like the dating scene or something. my boy scored this weekend. Yeah.
Give me a.
Okay. Oh, like
give me a hint.
Okay.
A
Premier League. Premier League. Yeah. Let's go Prem. I'll start there.
Premier League. Holland? There's a 99% chance that's a yes.
Julio Enciso scored.
Oh, yeah, I saw.
Scored.
Yeah.
It's his second goal in the Prem now. He had scored before against Bournemouth and had a very passionate celebration where he cried upon scoring. His debut goal in the Premier League, I think it was a couple weeks back. He got a few minutes in the game against Chelsea this weekend, Brighton versus Chelsea, where they were tied 1-1. Enciso comes on, has a really, really good appearance, and scores a light year of a goal, bro. A fucking banger outside the box, like a fucking missile directing its way straight to that top left corner.
Yeah.
And there's something that stood out to me about this moment, because obviously it's a beautiful story. Julio Enciso is the Paraguayan player. I think he's like 19 years old.
Yeah.
We had touched on him earlier this season when he was signed by Brighton, and he seems to just kind of be that next Brighton starlet player, the next guy on board, the next player that Brighton will sign and see success with, a low-key player that becomes a really, really good player. That's the path he's on already.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? But he hadn't really gotten minutes this season. He hadn't really played a lot this season, to be honest. Under Graham Potter, I don't think he even saw any real game time. And finally, under De Zerbi, he gets some minutes, and he's starting to see recently a uptick in his appearances. Scores this amazing game-winning goal against Chelsea, and what follows fascinated me, because he fucking goes to the away stand. He stands on the deck that's right there, stretches his hands out, and he literally looks like the Christ that's in Rio de Janeiro. He looks incredible, but not just that. His passion when he scored that fucking goal was something that gave me true goosebumps, because I was like, fuck, dude, this transcends football. This transcends this TV screen. I feel this kid's story. I feel this kid's passion. I am right there with him. And it was a beautiful, beautiful moment. So much so that when he was interviewed post-game, they had him on that classic Premier League corner where you see the sponsors in the back, and it's this really tight corner where the camera's right up in your face. They interviewed him after the game, and he had a translator on board for him because he doesn't know how to speak English, only speaks Spanish. His translator was Alexis McAllister.
Okay, that makes sense.
And it's so wholesome because if you watch the video, Alexis McAllister is nonstop smiling the whole time he sees Julio Enciso just answer these questions about, you know, this goal that he scored, this meaningful moment that he just had. And Alexis McAllister himself just looks like a proud brother, bro. It's such a beautiful thing. But it really got me thinking, man. And I know that we say this like casually now, and everyone in football, everyone that watches the sport says this.
Yeah.
But I think we need to like grab a magnifying glass and like really focus in on what this is. I do think, bro, that a majority of South Americans will die for football. I think they will genuinely take a fucking bullet to the head for this sport. And I don't say that lightly, bro.
Right.
Because the atmospheres you see in South America, the stories, the players, the way that they embrace these moments, the way that they express emotions, I think is just a level above everybody else in the world. And I do think it's something that we need to kind of focus on for a little bit here, because when Julio Enciso scored this amazing goal, I was speechless, bro.
Yeah.
I was speechless. I was like, when you really think about it, South Americans and South American countries in general economically aren't at the level of European countries. Politically, there's a lot of turmoil. There's a lot of hardship that's encountered for people who grew up in these places. Life in general is pretty tough in South America. Obviously, there's a lot of beauty to it. Brazil and the traditions, Argentina and the passion that they have for so many things. Any country you name, there's so much beauty. I'm not saying that. I am just saying that it's definitely a lot grittier by default. And so what does that yield in return? Well, you get these people who grow up very hardened, very molded by these tough experiences that they have. You translate that over to the football field, and you see players that are just incredible, bro. This incredible innate ability they have to express themselves, to enjoy themselves, and to fucking thrive in. And it baffles me because football wasn't invented that long ago, bro. There was a time.
The grand scheme of things.
There was a time where South Americans existed and football didn't. And it's crazy to me because I feel like nowadays I correlate football and South America as a 1-to-1 correlation. Yeah. They are united. They are one thing together. One cannot exist without the other, bro. Yeah. And we've seen it now with Argentina winning the World Cup. We saw the way that those fans celebrated, the way they flooded the streets of Argentina. I'm truly amazed by how football has worked as a way of expression for South Americans, but also as a way of life. And I do think it's beautiful how football truly is life in South America. Whereas, like, if we're talking about Europe, I think football is a part of life. But I don't think football is life in Europe. Despite how good Europeans are at the sport, I don't think it's their identity. I don't think it's what drives them on a day-to-day basis the way that it does in South America. So regardless of the state of some teams there, regardless of the state of some countries there, the political views and what's going on, with the basis of football, we're going to be seeing some incredible stories for the rest of our lives because right now there's a number of Julio Encisos in South America just working their way up in the streets, waiting to have a moment just like Julio Enciso did with Brighton this past weekend. And the passion that he displayed to me just set as a reminder for me to be like, holy shit, South Americans will truly die for this fucking sport.
Yeah. My God, dude. Not that I have anything close to that to add to, but you probably could do like a thesis on this. Like you could go to college.
I don't want to go to college.
You could go to college, get your bachelor's, get your master's, and then talk to your professor for your PhD and be like, I have an idea.
Right.
And
it's
it
like
would
a
probably,
mathematics class or something. I'm just like, hey, prof.
And it would probably get greenlit, bro. It probably would. He'd be like, go for it.
Sir.
And you could probably do a crazy study on, because what you just described to me was a study of culture and sport. But more specifically, the best sport on the planet. And the sport that allows you to express yourself in any which way you so choose. It's why I fell in love with the sport to begin with, because out of all of the sports, even the way that you touch the ball, you can have so much flair and so much identity and personality. And that's just touching it, bro. There are so many more advanced facets to the game of football that you can literally become like an artist out on that field. And so what you just described to me was, what do you get when you mix artistry and culture? And I do think that there is a correlation between that artistry and specifically the Latin American culture that is found throughout the South American region. And yeah, I don't know what you'd find, bro, but I am sure you would find something very, very concrete. Because you could look at it to like, why isn't Central America and Mexico the exact same? But there's similarities. There are definitely similarities, but it is different. And then obviously there's places where there is almost no culture for a type of sport like that, and that is the USA, a place where mathematics and statistics goes a lot further than any sort of cultural identity. And so therefore you get literal sports based off statistics like baseball or American football. And it just makes sense. But then you go down to, like, let's say Eastern Asia, right? You have Japan and Korea play very specific very technical, but very like almost like mindful game of football. But it also makes sense because, you know, they've driven the technological world for the last 50 fucking years. So it just, you mix approach, mindset, culture with an art. But with an art, and I think you get what you're describing, but what's so fun about football, man, is that it's just so blatantly expressive and it's so primal. Because, you know, like an art on a painting is not going to, you know, get you off your seat, or most people. But an art out on the pitch, you know, it can, as you said, make people die for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why football is so beautiful, because you get that incredible mix of like humanity, athleticism, and art.
Absolutely, dude. You're absolutely right. And that's all thanks to Julio Enciso, bro.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. We get that reminder, bro. The Argentines in general, like specifically, took the game of football in as if it was family. Like, they didn't even question it. The moment football landed in Argentina, they were like, all right, give me more of this. Like, they didn't even question it. For some reason, specifically, Argentines and football get along very, very well.
Yeah.
Since the inception of the game.
Dude, that's bizarre.
Yeah.
That's bizarre, but I guess to the point I'm saying where it's one of one. Like, they can't exist without each other.
Yeah, it's 1-1.
What other country can say that? You know, outside like England probably.
Right,
like,
right.
This shit is so rooted in its existence. Fucking baffles me, man.
Yeah, oh wow,
It's fucking weird.
I see how deep you're
It's
getting.
like language.
Here.
Like,
Right.
The country can't operate without it.
Yeah, you're born with like a football at your feet in Argentina. Like, that's how rooted it is into the culture. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is actually crazy. Which makes sense that like both Maradona and Messi were both came from that country.
Is it possible to have a GOAT if you don't come from a country that...
Right. Like a true GOAT.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at that point, the entire nation is manifesting it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's insane, bro.
Damn, what's going on in Norway then?
Science, bro. Something different.
Yeah.
Something different, bro. Did you see that the USA are playing Mexico this week?
Tomorrow.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, they're facing each other a lot now in these next few months, bro.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, I feel like it's going to be a really common occurrence, especially because there's no big qualifiers for both of these nations going to the World Cup. The rivalry, I do think, has heated up a lot because the USA has really improved over the last 4 years. And now Mexico, you know, can actually use this as leverage to be like, all right, well, now we have a reason to play the USA because now it's truly competitive. And then obviously the rivalry off the pitch between the fan bases, you know, it's as good as it gets in CONCACAF, baby. It is the biggest rivalry outside of like Brazil, Argentina. I'm gonna go ahead and say that, dude. It is so big over here. And so it is interesting that they're playing. It's just, you know, a little annoying that it's not in a window, so it's almost an exclusive MLS side against an exclusive Liga MX side. So it's just going to be more of like a prospective feature more than anything else. But it'll still be interesting to see, and you know it's going to be a sold-out crowd. But yeah, I just want to know, like, in general, because they do play each other in the Nations League semifinals, and that's going to be a big one. The USA is going to call up all their big boys, same with Mexico. Without even analyzing it, just what are your initial thoughts? Mexico, USA, full squad. So it's not going to be the one this week.
Right.
But to the one in June, we'll cover it once we see the lineups when that comes out, like in 2 months' time. But just your initial thoughts, man. Like, are you going to have pressure on Mexico? Is it going to be more of like, let's just see how we do? Do you expect Mexico to lose? Like, do you, like, considering especially USA's recent form? Just in general, what do you expect out of this type of tie? Because it is a competitive match.
I think Mexico's going to struggle against the U.S.
Yeah.
I think Mexico's going to struggle. I think they'll be able to keep the game close, but right now I see the USA edging out Mexico in that final result. And I could see a path here where if Coca doesn't get successful results, even in tomorrow's friendly, for example.
Ooh, yeah.
You think about him losing this friendly. You think about him falling short in the Nations League. And then if the same thing happens in the Gold Cup, we might see the Coca experiment end by August, bro. It can happen really soon.
Yeah.
So obviously there's always pressure when it comes to USA-Mexico match, but I'm not actually going into it that optimistic or that certain that we're going to end the tournament or those matchups as winners or as champions. I think I'm on the opposite side. I think we face a really, really good opponent now in the USA. We can't underestimate them anymore. That can no longer be allowed. We have to take them as serious opponents. And if Mexico plays their best, if they play up to their abilities, then I do think they can make it a good match, and I do think they come out with a good result. But the Mexico that I've seen so far still seems sort of like the international version of Chelsea, where it's just overall confusion. Yeah. We haven't found the right formation. Does Santi Jimenez get that starting nod yet or not? A lot of questions attached to this team. And so I'm going into this in a very opposite Reynoso way, where I'm kind of pessimistic of how I see Mexico as of right now and how I see them going into these matchups.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just more curious to see, obviously, how it all plays out. But let's just say USA get the best of them in the Nations League semifinals. I'll be curious to see how Mexico approaches the Gold Cup, because from what I've heard, there is a chance that the USA don't bring a full squad to the Gold Cup.
Wow.
I think they're going to go for the Nations League because it's only a 2-game affair if they win the semifinal and then go play in the final. But I've heard that they're going to do the same thing they did 2 years ago and just kind of call a mainly MLS-based squad, solely because the World Cup was just like 6 months ago at the time of the Gold Cup. So they might want to give their European players just more rest in general. But I'm curious to know, like, if Mexico do falter a little bit going into the Gold Cup, are they going to be like, fuck it, we got to call up our best players. We need to win this shit. That'll be really interesting to see just from that type of narrative. And then obviously the Santi Jimenez narrative too. Like, I was thinking about that too, bro. Henry Martin is actually playing the best football he's ever played right now. And it's a little frustrating because Santi Jimenez is doing the same thing. What's interesting, though, and I think what a lot of people are missing out on, is Henry Martin has worse players around him at America, but he's getting arguably the same type of numbers that Jimenez is with better players around him at Feyenoord. Obviously, the competition that Jimenez faces is a lot more, and it's a lot more difficult in Europe. But what's interesting about that is Martin does a lot with a very little. And the type of player Mexico needs right now is someone like that. Hot take right here. I don't think Jimenez fits into the Mexico squad right now, because I think Jimenez needs very confident, very sure of themselves type of players around him for himself to be very successful. Whereas Martin, he can work off of basically anything. His very good off the ball. He finds very good space, and his reception has been fantastic. He scored a banger this weekend for America in El Clásico Joven. And so Martin is in incredible form right now, low-key looking like a mini Cepillo Peralta out there, and it's working. And right now I think Mexico, as you already kind of pointed out, are still in a transitionary phase, are still trying to figure it out. And so if you just want success, if you want someone you know will work and will get you goals in very, very hard times, I'd actually go Martin over Jimenez right now. I think long run, you figure out how to incorporate Jimenez, but short term, I'm starting Martin. So, yeah, I'm just very curious to see all of these narratives play out for Mexico, because there's so many little nuances, man, that can either go for Coca or really hurt him, bro. So, yeah, I'm just very, very curious to see how this all pans out. And it's going to be happening very quick. Because, like you said, we might have a Coca decision come August, which is in 4 months. So, yeah, there's a lot on the line, but also not, because it's so early.
Yeah, absolutely. Henry Martin over Santi Jimenez. That's interesting, man.
It's an interesting one, man. And I've really thought about it. But I do think it's merited. I really do.
I hear that argument out. Maybe fit-wise he is better, but I don't think, outside of a couple like pretty meaningless games, I don't think Santi Jimenez has actually been given a real genuine shot with the Mexican national team. That's so true. To make the assumption that he wouldn't be a perfect fit, I don't think I fully agree with. I think his play style allows for him to kind of be more like a Raul Jimenez, where if he is given the opportunities, he can thrive. But we did see Raul Jimenez struggle a lot.
That's my problem.
Because he wasn't fed. Right. And Chucky Lozano fell short in that aspect. Alexis Vega was that guy for a while too, building up to the World Cup. And the midfielders themselves weren't very good at creating opportunities. So maybe for this Mexican national team, maybe you are right. Maybe Henry Martin is the better fit. But I can't go with that with assurance until I see Santi Jimenez be given a true, genuine shot, at least the way that Henry Martin has been given. Because Martin has been pretty solid in his appearances for Mexico. He scored a little bit in the build-up to the World Cup.
Yeah.
And then I think he was crucial in that Saudi Arabia match where he was really imposing. And so he was very good in that sense. But I don't know. I feel like there's this unknown factor yet to Santi Jimenez and what he truly looks like at the national level, because as we've seen with lots of players, they do change their style of play a little bit to fit and mold themselves better with the national team. I think Santi Jimenez might be one of those guys that plays a certain way with the club level and then changes his way up a tiny bit with the national team. Yeah. Did you know that Chicharito, in his first season with Manchester United, scored 20 goals in all competitions?
Yeah.
Santi Jimenez is at 19.
Interesting
stat. I saw it on ESPN the other day. Obviously, different leagues. The same way you're talking about Martin and Santi Jimenez, different leagues. But in their first season in Europe, or first season with a big club in that sense, that was their output. And it's very, very close. It's very similar to.
That's cool, though.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
That's actually really
I didn't realize Jimenez was on that numbers trajectory.
That's what's crazy about Jimenez, though, is that I think I saw a stat 2 weeks ago. Out of like all the U23 players that are strikers in Europe, Jimenez is like top 3 in scoring. He's up there as far as like young strikers scoring goals in European top flights. That's insane. Yeah. That's really impressive.
That's a Cruz Azul player.
Right. Yeah. But I don't know. I just think I'm gonna go with what you're saying. I do think there's a lot of unknown with Jimenez, to the point where I can't even project where he's going to be, even with a year with this Feyenoord side. Does he fit anywhere else? Can he fit with this Mexican national team? Ultimately, I just actually don't know. But I just think it gets really interesting when you compare the numbers, for example, to Chicharito or to a really experienced striker like Henry Martin. I think Coca has a lot of decisions to make, because I think ultimately what I'm getting at. But you're right. I'm not looking at that unknown factor. If Jimenez can be unleashed in the right way for Mexico, yeah, he could be like Chicharito was for like 8 years.
And I think not going with him now is problematic, because if not now, then when, bro? Like, think about it from the other view of like, what if he plays a little bit? I don't think he's going to play in this friendly, but if he shows up in the Nations League, if he shows up in the Gold Cup, like that's going to be huge for him and his role with the national team. Whereas if you go with a guy like Henry Martin, that's only going to start more problems. I think it's going to start more drama. If he does thrive in that role, then it makes things very, very interesting. But even then, Henry Martin is already, I think, about 30 years old.
Yeah, he is.
So it's just going to stunt, I think, the overall growth of Jimenez, which I feel like the whole purpose, the whole motivation, the whole foundation of this new Mexico squad is that we're going to do opposite of what Tata Martino did, which was give the older guys minutes, give the more experienced players that game time. And I think Henry Martin still lands in that category rather than the opposite one, which is what Santi Jimenez falls into, which is going with the younger players, going with the players where there's more potential, that don't know their roles yet, but need these big matches contextually for Mexico to find their way with the national team and to maybe change that narrative with the national squad.
Yeah.
So I do think it's just a little, I guess, meaningless. Even if Henry Martin is the better option, I do think it's a little meaningless to go with him now, because regardless of if he goes off these next 2-3 years, Jimenez is still going to be our guy for the next 10. Yeah. So just give him the keys to the vehicle now.
Yeah, it does seem definitely a bit contradictory to not go with Jimenez right now. But hey, not that he's young. Aldo Rocha got the call-up for tomorrow's game. Yeah. Cool. Osiel Herrera, another Atlas player. He's young. Yeah. That could work, man. I'm just hoping that with all of these just more Liga MX-based appearances in this game, I'm hoping he actually looks at it and says, okay, this guy played well, let's call him up to the Nations League game at the very least. Because if it's just consolatory, then fuck it, why even have the game if you're not going to use it for like studies or for experiments? But that's what I'm hoping for.